queued up, Keith. So Keith is one half of Keith and Shirley Garland, and I think a lot of the mums and dads here in the room will have heard of Shirley Garland White from the Facebook group. She's been there for a very long time. And Keith lives in South Dublin with their 6 children, including Jordan, their son, who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at age 2. He is an IT project manager and a self-confessed licensed radio ham, whatever that means.
I'll tell you.
Hacker, self-confessed hacker in radio ham. And he's been using a range of DIY solutions since 2015 to help in the management of Jordan's condition. And I've probably given away all your introduction now. So, Keith.
Thanks very much. So that's me. Sorry, over to the microphone. And that should break the technology. Shouldn't proclaim yourself as technologist at the beginning of a slideshow presentation.
Sorry.
Okay. So, this is the first time I've seen this presentation as well. I only finished it a few minutes ago, so good luck to all of us. Okay. So, just as I say, to introduce myself, I am married to Shirley. She's going to say, where did you get that photograph? That was taken in the 1930s, as you can see. There's the 6 kids. I'm not using the word angelic. Jordan will always be the baby. As Gordon said, he's the one with type 1 diabetes. I run a small IT consultancy as a project manager most of the time. I'm an avid runner, technologist, and I like to fly drones a lot as well. So, Jordan was just 2 when he was diagnosed back in October 2015. Shirley was on the ball and managed to get him to the GP when he was showing some early signs of thirst and frequency of going to the loo and that kind of thing. GP said he looked great, there'd be no problem, but she'd take a sample anyway, and next thing we're in hospital and we're not allowed out until we know what to do with diabetes. So we got our glucometer and injection training and all the rest, and remember the first walk in the park we went was literally not a walk in the park. We were racing back to the car trying to get sugar supplies. We thought we were in a life-threatening situation, but he kind of recovered by the time he got back. But that was kind of our introduction to life with diabetes. So we started with approved technologies. Our beloved Animas 5 pump. As I said, the under 6s are prioritised for that sort of technology. And previously it was liberating, because previously where treatment had been a long walk and a drink of water, we can now actually give a correction or put on a temporary basal or whatever it may be. Gave us some sense of control. But it also introduces to the fact that you've got more technology, but you've got a little bit more work to do, you have a little bit more responsibility. And that technology can bring failures with it. You've got set failures, like I think we're probably having one at the moment. And you're dealing with pouches and tubing and all sorts of stuff. So you're swapping one stress for another. But we're, like Gordon was saying a few minutes ago, you're very motivated about your kids. And a big takeaway that we took away from our clinical team, which are a fabulous team, is if you can keep them well now, then when the technologies and the treatments improve in years to come, he'll be the best candidate for those things. Then we moved on to CGM trial with the G4. Aileen up there in the back when she was the Animas rep when they did Dexcom as a side gig, and now she's fully Dexcom. It was fantastic support at the time for us. Remember harassing her about what protocol it used and what frequency it was on, and she wasn't... She's very open. She's going like this. She got too much information anyway about it in the end. When we talk about hacking and DIY and tech, that doesn't have to be a closed-loop system. And I thought this was just a good example. When we got our CGM first, which worked with the Vibe, when you got an alarm with the Vibe, I think when the first week said, you couldn't hear the alarms in the next room. You think, oh great, we got CGM, we got alerts on the pump, but if you're a couple of bedrooms away, you can hear it, and heard of people putting their receiver into a bowl of marbles and putting it up against the skirting board. I found this app called Syntector, and what it would do is it would recognise a sound and then trigger an action. So when the Vibe gave an alarm, the phone beside him listened for that beep 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 and sent us a text message in the next room and an email. And so there's no Bluetooth, there's no anything. It was a simple solution. Before that, we were looking at, I've heard of people using baby intercoms and things so that they can hear it. So that's another way of extending your remote monitoring. So it doesn't have to be assembly code in a shed somewhere. There are hacking is seen as a bad thing, but it's just doing something different with what's already there. Like I say, I was looking into the packets and things behind G4, and I realised that there are other people researching this kind of stuff. And then there are a lot of resources out there on the internet that we could use. So using GitHub and Facebook and seeing what was going on with Xdrip and NightScout and that kind of thing. And that was a great introduction. Managed to build my own Xdrip in the end and to get NightScout up and running. So we got our own CGM in June 2015 full time on the 20th of June, and we had NightScout running on the 21st June. So since then, do I have a number here? 368,000 CGM readings since then in the database. So that's a lot of data that we have there to look at. So it's a gradual journey. I think you have to have really good support from your clinicians. Just keep your eye on the latest technology and persist. It's amazing to see people who've never picked up a soldering iron or anything, and because they have to, they'll build an Xdrip or something. And I think if you persist and you have the motivation, you can do any of this stuff. We did a lot of self-education. I think I meant to have a picture here, but we went to Diabetes World, which is what Jordan calls the family events down in Avonry and the other family days, and we had a great presentation there from Kate, I think, every year. So that was very inspiring. And a lot of really good speakers in there. So we were educating ourselves along the way. We did the sugar surfing conference with Thriveabetes. Here we go. And then building on things like sugar surfing, we're able to sort of condense that information. So a parent in court gave us an initial template for this slide, but this is our SNA's guide to sugar surfing. So we had pages and pages and pages, if then do this. And really we got it down to this one slide, which we ran past our clinic, and it's just reduced the amount of text backwards and forwards dramatically. And it's a very good one-pager to be dealing when you've got somebody else who's dealing with CGM and they don't really know what to do. And obviously, you tailor this a bit over time, a bit more carbs for a low or whatever, but that just dummy's guide to sugar surfing, if you like. So this is a busy slide. But this took me about 6 months to get this little green screen here, and it just means a lot to me. So
I appreciate it. I do.
So this is kind of a parakeet. This is my version of the parakeet before there was a parakeet, which is using basically a little mobile phone inside a Tic Tac box. And my goal was to basically do an Xdrip without a phone. And to use 256 AES encryption on it so that the data was secure when it was being transmitted over the internet. Our challenges were we were down in a mobile home with no phone coverage, no Wi-Fi coverage, nothing. We poor mobile coverage in our own house. So this version here is this one, and the one at the end is the Xdrip. So that's for Wi-Fi only. I think there's a Node MCU, which is kind of a fixed version. Again, my criteria is kind of it has to fit in a Tic Tac box for a 5-year-old to carry around, and that uses similar encryption as well. And then the one with the aerial at the end there is the Xdrip, which is now an Internet of Things network called Sigfox. And the Sigfox team were very interested in that and wanted to do a paper on it and things like that. But with the move from the G4, this is all G4 friendly, and once you get into Bluetooth, you sort of move away from that. So I want to stick with the G4, but Shirley likes the G5, so there's good reasons for the G5, but the G4 is much more open to communicating with. But I suppose my point here is these are things that I did, one, because I love technology, but two, because that's what we needed to do in our situation, is to try and find solutions to the things that were going on.
You'll still be able to bridge your G5 to your Sigfox, so it'll be grand.
Yeah, okay.
That's a project for you.
Cool. Did end up using sort of a Sigfox repeater, because with the small aerials it's kind of hard to get onto the Sigfox network, but it's got good coverage and it's very popular across the world. So I suppose the message I want to give is, as the technology improves, you think that it's going to save you work, but I think if you've gone from injections to a pump, there's more work there. People think, I'll put the pump on and then I'll have nothing to do, but you're adjusting your basals, you're doing more corrections. We were doing a lot of stuff at night, and we were like, 5 or 6 interventions. We could have a dozen interventions in a day, or 20 interventions a day. If we're having those at night, you're using an alarm for 15 minutes, you're giving carbs, you're waiting to see if it kicks in again. And really, although we had the CGM, we were still really struggling. We made the case that this was we could go to sleep and the alarms would wake us. But once you have that information, you're saying, well, why leave them run at 14 overnight? You want to keep them under 10, and if an alarm goes off, you want to go in and you want to do a correction. So I'd be there at 4 in the morning, getting up for the 10th time, and let's see if I get this. So Shirley would be saying to me, what's the blood sugar doing now? What's the basal? And I should get a kind of a reaction like this, if it works. That's Shirley. So that was me at 4 in the morning. So we had to find a better way. I just need to get my mouse back. So we decided to experiment with looping. So I keep getting distracted because I see the dog staring at me on the screen here, and he's looking at me like some of the audience. No, it's fine. I think a point is the technology is good, but you're introducing more points of failures, because before we were reliant on the phone as well as the pump, as well as not rolling over on the CGM. The Wi-Fi might go down. Then with the closed loop, you need to get the signal between the pump and the phone, and if he turns over and his body blocks it, and you need the close Bluetooth proximity, you need the alarms to be working properly. We had the Dexcom G4, which had some issues with it where we weren't getting alarms. So it's not just the DIY technology. Even the G5 receiver that we got, that doesn't beep at night properly, but it is a second-hand one, and I'm sure the Dexcom rep will tell you all the new ones work brilliantly. But if an alarm rings in our house, it rings on Jordan's phone, it rings on the looping phone, it rings on Shirley's phone, it rings on 2 iPads, it rings on my phone, the watch buzzes. You spend so much time trying to silence everything, you forget to deal with the hypo. But you want to make sure that you don't miss an alarm, there's a lot of work in it. So I suppose the point is you still need that manual failover in the same way as you have the safety constraints within the closed loop. You need that other backups of having your CGM there, and if your CGM fails, what's your other CGM, or what's your fallback? So that's just a quick journey from injections to NightScout to closed looping. With that, we have had improved HbA1c, we have had improved time in range, but there should be a metric that the consultants use for time sleep versus alarms as a measure of success as well. This is today's chart. I just scooped it off there, which isn't a bad chart, it's not a brilliant chart, but I suppose the point to make is we only loop at night, so the stuff on the right is kind of the daytime stuff, and this is kind of the nighttime bracket. So it's a bit better than when we were doing it manually, but we're getting kind of the same results with a lot more sleep. So that I think when we go to clinic, we're the current projected HbA1c would be about 6.0, which is pretty good for an 8-year-old, 7-year-old. and we were getting kind of 6.1, 6.2, 6.0 in clinic. So we're quite happy with that. That's last night's graph. So you can see the basals going up and down. Microbolus has been given. Went a bit high. So I did actually do a manual correction at this stage. And then he came down and leveled off nicely for breakfast. But there may have been some resistance building up there because we're dealing with a bit of a high and a set failure remotely at the moment, which is a bit stressful, but I think it'll be okay. So that's just to show you what a night looks for us on NightScout. Nearly there. So those are the numbers. I've done my GDPR as well as I can on this side. But this is Jordan. He went on a sleepover recently with the beavers. So we went over for the day on a hike, and they were stopping for ice cream, and they were having spaghetti, and they were doing all sorts of things. So somebody's asked me, how does Jordan feel about all this? Well, Jordan didn't really notice. Like, we got an agenda beforehand from the leaders. We knew when he was going to be eating. We got them to weigh a couple of things. They had somebody's birthday, so they had birthday cake for breakfast. It was great. But we didn't want the leaders going in and having to intervene with the pump and all that sort of thing. So when Jordan was having his spaghetti, we basically texted the looping kit and got it to deliver the bolus based on the carbs that were there.
So, where was Jordan? Like, where was he physically, and where were you?
We were actually down the road, to be honest, in a restaurant, and I did dash down at one stage when he had a bit of a low. But then in the morning, we were at home in Shankill, and he was in the scout down in Bray, and they said, we're having cake for breakfast, and we said, can you take a picture of it? And they said, yeah, sure. And then we texted a bolus to the phone, and we could also see the basals and things during the night. It did disappear for an hour in the night, which was a bit harrowing because he'd rolled over, so we had to text the leader, and they went in and rolled him back over to get the compression low. So that's the jelly phone, and that's the phone, and that's all that Jordan had with him overnight. That's his closed loop system there that we were able to do that with. So that's the real outcome.
Yeah.
And the great thing was Jordan doesn't know about it. So he's having his cake and eating it.
Is there a reason you only loop at night?
Is there a reason I only loop at night, Shirley?
Yeah, because Keith goes to work during the day.
But this is it. Shirley goes, it's not working, what do I do? So I'm the technologist and she's the technophobe, but between the two of us, she balances me out, and I think we'll use it for things like that. It's still a work in progress, a proof of concept. I think, that's a great story, but when I started, because I hadn't used that phone remotely before, only on Wi-Fi, when I hooked it up, I lost the connection to the pump, so I spent 2 hours trying to get Ruffy to talk to Combo again before I went out, and then when I brought him to the den, I couldn't get the mobile signal, and I was trying to find the Wi-Fi password. I was there for an hour setting it up. So that sounds great, but like I say, there's more work involved, but it was the only way to do it.
Can I just say as well, there's another reason that he has an SNA in school who's trained in how to use the Animas 5 that he's wearing, and if we were to say that we would control everything from home remotely, and I would watch it during the day, and the pump would do it on its own, and we could bolus remotely for his lunch and all that kind of thing, the SNA would be gone. There would be nobody watching out for him. He's still only in first class, he's only 7, and it means that I can bring him to school and I can leave him in school knowing that somebody's watching him, and I don't have to be watching him doing remote boluses and wondering is the pain disconnected or connected or all that kind of thing. And also the hospital training the SNAs, so there would be, I think, kind of, I know there's a complication with the ethical side and the legal side, even within the clinics, but then if you've got the hospitals training the schools and training the SNAs, it has to be really in the approved technology and what the hospital will stand over if there was an incident in school when the closed loop failed.
Our schools are very good, they're very open, but
it's all very complicated to bring something like that into the school where you have an approved system with an SNA hospital training?
It's taken the SNA probably 3 years to get up to speed on where they are now, and to introduce how open APS is used and logging the cards and all that sort of thing. I think it would be a step too far. Our SNA is retiring this year, so it's something we might look at down.
Certainly when he's a bit older, maybe over 10. We'll
Over 10.
You have her on. You have her.
I have her on video. Yeah, cool. Okay. So anyway, we'll move on. We can have the row later.
Do you stay on the combo? Do you switch to the
Well, I was just explaining that I don't use the traditional combo supplies because the combo has what's called a lure loop, which is a kind of a standard system. So this isn't the tubing that would normally come with that, but it's the tubing that works with the Animas Vibe.
Okay.
So you just pop.
I purposely have this different tubing, and at night we put this one on and take the Vibe tubing off, and then in the morning we swap over. So it's a little bit of an ordeal, and then we switch on the closed loop, and then
Sorry, you just unclip that one.
Yeah, just unclip one and clip the other and pop the pump into his pouch. Right. So I think when we change pumps, it'll become a little bit more messy, but
The Vibe doesn't work with the looping.
No, the Vibe doesn't work with looping. You can open loop where you can type the stuff in, but you can't close the loop.
And we have to switch from the Vibe now.
And as you know, we're all being pushed off the Vibes, unfortunately. So, okay. So, why were we doing it? We're just trying to get the best outcomes. I had a keen interest in technology. We wanted to maximise safety. The early CGM offerings were limited. Encouraged by other people's success. Remote monitoring wasn't really commercially available for us in the beginning when we started this. We took on the we're not waiting philosophy. It became more a why not than a why. And once we got into DIY, then it sort of naturally progressed into the looping. So it's not necessarily the hard way, but I suppose the message to keep giving is you've got more information, you've got more technology, you've got more control, but you've got more responsibility and you've more work to do in a different way. You've got to run auto-tune, you've got to tweak your basals. We would often maybe take off the closed loop for a few nights and do some basal testing to make sure that our baseline basals are right, and then switch stuff back on and run auto-tune again. Just a couple more slides. I suppose this is just talking about the benefits. Being part of a community, being here talking to you guys is one of those. And you wouldn't choose it, but it's great. All the people that we've met and all the things that we've learned. So, what pump? We might go to the IPSA pump because although I think where's he going? Anyway, the IPSO pump doesn't officially do two-way communications. I think that there have been some demonstration with the engineers that they do two-way communications. They have made a commitment that they will open it up with open source protocols. Maybe there will be another firmware release. There were some mixed reports about whether or not that would work or not, that there may be some verification required on the pump. But it is actually two-way capable, unlike something like the Vibe. We have been asked about doing a FES trial with our clinical team, and we may look at running the loop on a watch rather than a phone, which I know a few people are doing as well.
Can I ask, why would you not stick with the combo, which already you could work with the loop system? Just as a matter of interest, in your experience, why would you consider going to that over the combo?
We have made the decision to do that.
Okay.
Because
there's no technological reason.
We don't like the combo pump. So
not fair. Like it's an individual thing.
It is. I think
apparently clearly an individual.
The IPSO pump is sexier. It's smaller. It's lighter. It's a small kid. It should be more future-proof in that the app and things that it will be designed to do that two-way communication. The combo you need to have roughy and things installed in the background. It's all quite fiddly to set up, and it's a bulkier pump. And if you have to fall back to the interface of the combo, it is very 1980s.
And our son,
on
trial of all three pumps, chose the IPSO pump because he loves it.
Yeah, and he loves it, so that's the important thing. Yeah. So hopefully this will come into the open. So I mean, we would love a tandem T-Slim, or we would have liked to see how the Medtron worked. We want to get a trial of that. And the Dana RS is available on the NHS, and that's designed to work with Android APS. So that would be the ideal if that was on the tender. But you have to work with what you've got. So.
Are the Medtronic pumps able to...
You have to get an old Medtronic pump. Dana will be able to tell you the
Yeah.
specific models.
I mean, for us, they were brilliant at the start, but I think that, if you're starting to do it, if you don't have to carry around that extra piece of kit, then for me, Android APS makes it simpler because you don't need the Riley Link or the Edison box or whatever it is.
Which is what you can use as a combo, isn't it?
With the combo, you just use the phone like that.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no bit in the middle. They just talk to each other.
Yeah.
You need other bits and pieces. But if the Medtronic is the pump you have, or the pump you've access to, or the pump you know and love, then great, go with the Medtronic. I can only tell you about my experience. It's like I had to pick one, and I said, well, I don't have a Riley Link, and I want to mess about with this stuff. I'm not going to put the money into it.
Keith, so I have to choose an NanoMask 5. I have to choose my next pump. So will you have to add Bluetooth to a phone? Or is it very complicated?
It doesn't at the moment, but it's capable of doing it. And they are saying that they will allow one-way communication, but theoretically on a press release that on their website from last year, they said that they will open it up for two-way communication in the future for open source protocols. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's what they say. So we're hedging our bets that we're hoping for the best, but
You can see success here with that.
Yeah. Guys, we have time set aside after Tomas to ask Keith and Tomas questions. It's just that we're already half an hour to an hour over, and a lot of people have a long drive ahead of them. This
is my last slide, and then I'll go.
Sorry, and then I'll come back to you.
Yeah,
first.
we'll answer all those questions in a couple of minutes, but they're all good questions. I think. I don't even think insulin pumps are for everybody. And I don't think there's like people go, oh, why wouldn't you have a pump? But for some people, they don't want things hanging out of them. They have as much control over it if they don't have an insulin pump. I can't remember his name. The guy who does the sugar surfing. I think.
Oh, Dr. Stephen Ponder.
He's dumped his pump. I mean, he still has a CGM, but I think. All of these things, closed looping isn't for everybody. There is a lot of extra work, and at the stage it's at, it is work, but it's worth the benefits for us, but it's not necessary for everybody. CGM gives you a lot more information, but you've got to do something with it. There's no point in just setting it to 15 and then react to an alarm. But there's a good support community out there. For us, it's worth it, and I think it comes back to, I think our clinic is very. They will not condone anybody using it. They'll not encourage anybody to use it. They'll not recommend it. But they would certainly adopt Diabetes Australia's position paper and say if somebody's doing it, they know they're doing it because they have safety in mind, and they're going to really. You should support the patient in whatever choice they have. So if somebody comes in and says they're closed looping, then you'll be supportive of that and do what you can. And that's really been our experience in Tala. They're fantastic too. Okay?
Excellent.